And here we go.
Thank you,
Okay.
Karen. Thank you, Karen, very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Please try and save the Zoom.
It's the same.
number.
It's the same. Zoom.
For our services, it's always the same.
Thank you.
Are we live now?
We are live and ready to go, my friend.
So we want to welcome all of you to our services at Beth Ohr. It's my privilege to be leading services on this auspicious Shabbat. It's known as Shabbat Zachor, with my colleague Cantor Andrew Henry. And we'd like to begin our services with a word of formal greeting for our president, Karen Goodman, and she will be greeting you at the end of the service, but for right now, she's going to say hello.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Everyone. Thank you for being here. It's great to see you all. Really nice, really nice. And I'll say more at the end. The only thing I want to say is our Rabbi has been working very, very hard the last couple of weeks, helping all the Beit Polska people in organizing their work to help the Ukrainians who have fled, who are now in Poland. There's much work to be done, and Rabbi has been working very, very hard on him, and I want to thank him. And if you don't know what he's been up to, then I know he's going to talk about it later. So you can look forward to that. Okay, I think that's it for now.
Thank you. So traditionally, this is the Sabbath before the holiday of Purim. And it is, there's a cycle and a rhythm to our calendar. There's a very famous philosopher, Franz Rosenzweig, that argued that if you just read the calendar of the Jewish year, you could understand what are the significant ideas and theology of Judaism. And so we come to an interesting moment in the psychology and theology of Judaism, because this Shabbat Zachor means remember. And that topic of memory and all that it evokes is one of the fashionable topics as we think about not only what is going on in the world contemporarily, but as we think about the difference between memory and history. A very important distinction that is made quite common these days. The remembering that it takes place on this holiday, we'll read the passage tonight. It's a very short passage that evokes the holiday, but it's a lead up to the holiday of Purim. And Purim is a lead up to the holiday of Passover. And so memory is implicated in the holiday of chaos. Everything is upside down in the holiday of Purim. And then, of course, we sit at the table to discover something about the spiritual order of things, Seder. So this Shabbat begins that important season. Our cantor is going to welcome us with a song, and then we're going to bless the candles and celebrate Shabbat together.
This is a very easy song, so I expect to hear you from my home office in Reseda. I expect to hear the voices cascading through the valley. The words are Mayafe Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. How lovely today is. May we all have a peaceful Shabbat. Mayafe Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma'afe Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma'afe Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma'afe Hayom. Shabbat Shalom. And if you have your Shabbat candles nearby and have them ready to light, I shall perform the magic of Zoom screen sharing. And there we go.
I'd like to rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
I'd like to invite everyone for wherever they're speaking or watching or participating to join in the prayer, at least to recite together, even though our mics are muted. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel with kindled light, so may we in our day be among those who kindle light. And we recite the blessing. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Traditionally, we recite some of the Psalms, and this beautiful Siddur that the cantors put together invites us to begin with the first Psalm that's part of the messianic mobilization that is represented in the new understanding of Shabbat that begins in Tzfat with the reciting of these Psalms, the just world. And they focus on the idea of justice being heralded by God's sovereignty. It is to be a joyous time, not an apocalyptic time, but a joyous time, with Lechu Ranina Ladonai.
Nariya, let's so ye shenu, the kanaf and
Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai and raise a shout to the Eternal One. We now turn to the next psalm, Shirul Adonai, the idea that each day should bring a new song to our lips.
Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. I will sing unto God a new song.
Reading just the concluding part of the psalm, and one of the reasons it was chosen to represent this moment of the Sabbath. Let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the fields and everything in them exult. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy at the presence of Adonai, for God is coming. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its people in faithfulness. We continue with Lecha Dodi.
We'll just skip forward past these, if you will allow me, and we will land at Lecha Dodi in just a moment. There we go.
And so we're going to begin with which stanzas are we going to recite, Cantor?
Oh, let's see. We will do 1, 2, 5, and 9 tonight, Rabbi.
Good. 1, 2, 5, and 9.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, ishmi'anu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'littiferet v'litla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, yihi mekor ha'beracha, merosh mekedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Itoreri, ki ba'orech u'mi'ori, uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai alayich nigla. לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. As we rise for verse 9 to greet the Sabbath bride. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמונה עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
We turn now to the next psalm, and it is the Psalm of the Sabbath on page 92. It is a particularly moving psalm. The Kabbalists, when they put this part of the service together, lived in a world that felt intensely unjust. There had just been the expulsion from Spain. Everything had been turned upside down. The market was dropping. People were uncertain about their future. There was a sense that all we could do was transmute our hopes into psalms that would reflect the fact that we will not give up. We will continue to be committed to the aspiration for justice. And so this became what we call Kabbalat Shabbat, a placeholder for the idea of justice in our tradition. There was a song that is the last several verses, Tzadik Tamar Yifrach, that I'm going to ask the cantor to share with us after I read the English. The righteous bloom like a date palm. They will thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they will produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock, in whom there is no wrong.
Tzadik Tamar Yifrach, Keres Balvanon Yizkeh, Shetulim Bevet Adonai, Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrichu, Od Yenun B'Seva, Deshenim Verananim Iyu Lehagid, Ki Yashar Adonai Tzuri, Velo Havlat Habo.
We turn to the formal beginning of our service on the next slide, the Baruch Hu, and we have a wonderful song there, but we'll save that for later. We turn to the Baruch Hu, which brings us all together to worship, and we invite you to rise.
la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Hamevorach Leolam Vaed Hamevorach Hamevorach Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. We continue with the prayers that reflect our most important spiritual values. The first one, of course, is the celebration of the world we live in, and the sense of its special and precious nature. And we recite the words in English. If you'll just join me, muted of course, but let's recite them together in English. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alerts the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly course according to your plan. You are the creator of day and night, rolling light away from the darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
El Hai v'chayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'aravim.
Thank you. And the next prayer celebrates the central raison d'etre of the Jewish people, the learning that is done in love in order to be a part of God's world. We seek to align ourselves with the idea of mitzvah. The word mitzvah, of course, means a good deed, but it also means a attitude of drawing near to the spiritual. And ask the cantor to chant for us Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amecha Ahavta Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbenu Uvkumenu nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha Uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu Ve'orech yameinu Uvahem negei omam v'layla, negei omam v'layla. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו ישראל
Thank you, Cantor, and we join together with you. Some people rise, some people remain seated as we recite the words of the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם.
Thank you, Cantor. Join with me in the English of the Shema. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with your might. Take to heart these instructions which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus shall you remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai, your God. We celebrate the prayers that point to the possibility of change and redemption with the Micha Mocha on the left-hand side of the screen. The prayers that acknowledge the special relationship that God extended in saving us from the attempt of Pharaoh to re-enslave us.
נאמר יפדה אדוני את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Return to the prayers that acknowledge the nighttime and all that has sometimes held as a time of worry and fright. Hashkivenu, may we be allowed to lie down at night in peace and rise up in the morning in peace. Hashkivenu.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, ועמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
The observance of the Sabbath is a covenant. It is part of our eternal connection to the promises of rest and relaxation and renewal that are part of the re-ensoulment that we attempt to achieve on this day. Cantor intones the words of a Shamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, וביום השביעי ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לתורותם ברית עולם.
We turn to the prayers of the Amidah that mark our opportunity for private prayer and meditation. And we'll join together in the first two prayers and then invite people to meditate silently on their own. So some people are used to doing this by rising, and some people are used to just sitting and using this as a time for meditation. Formally, we'll rise and join with the cantor.
Adonai sefetai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר השדה אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום, יהללוך סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We'll continue in silent meditation for a few moments. We continue with the prayer Yula Ratzon as the cantor concludes the Amidah.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך, יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri vegoali, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri vegoali. May the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be acceptable before you. May the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you. Adonai, my rock, Adonai, my rock, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Adonai, my rock, Adonai, my rock, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer.
Thank you. It's a profound moment that we find ourselves in at this time. We are just a few days away from what is normally a pretty joyous time. And indeed, we are going to have a wonderful time with the Purim Spiel and all that that represents. I've been authorized to allow people to see just a little glimpse of where we're going with Purim this year. It is, I hope, a time that will give us some relief from the realities of the current moment in our lives in the world. Shabbat Zachor begins with a passage that has an internal contradiction. And I think it's that internal contradiction which is the lens through which we are viewing the events that are taking place in Ukraine. The passage says, blot out the memory of Amalek, don't forget. If you're supposed to blot out the memory of Amalek, then what does it mean? Don't forget. That seemingly contradictory message, I think, speaks loud as we view in contemporary terms the places that have such an echo through a Jewish lens. Ukraine is the place where the famous Chelmitsky pogrom took place in the 17th century. Ukraine in the 19th century was the place where there were the pogroms that sent most of the people who are sitting here today to the shores of America, beginning in 1881. And if there were still people who were hesitating, in 1905, there were more pogroms. And if you want to understand something of how the Israelis were educated, they time the death of 100,000 people in Ukraine mainly to the Russian Revolution. So this land is blood-soaked with the death of Jews, but yet this conflict has nothing to do with Jews. And in an interesting way, it is like the First World War, where you had Jews on all sides. You may remember that World War II often was characterized as the first time that Jews fought against Jews under different flags, the German flag, the French or British flag. And in many ways, the flag of Russia is flying over various kinds of Russians, and one can't help but be impressed with the Orthodox bearded Jews wearing tefillin and talit, standing father and son next to each other with their guns on the other shoulder. There's no way to view these events without a great deal of emotion. And whatever the outcome will be, and I think we all know that there's a very difficult outcome ahead, there will be radical changes in the world as we know it. Poland, the place that was once the center of the Jewish world, has been receiving people from Ukraine. We don't know exactly how many. The numbers on how many Jews there are in Ukraine are caught up in some fancy footwork by our Chabad brothers and sisters. All the statisticians who study these things say there's between 43 and 45,000 Jews. But if you read the Washington Post today, which was written, I guess, by a Chabad editor that must be looking over the shoulder, there was a claim that there were 200,000 Jews in Ukraine. Highly unlikely, suspiciously inflated number. But the numbers are not as important as the fact that human beings, Jews and non-Jews, are pouring over the border, mainly to Poland. And in discussions with people, it's become clear that one of the issues is that Putin may succeed in creating a long and bloody war in Ukraine, and also overburdening the main recipient of refugees, Poland, with an increase in its population of almost 10% overnight. Surprisingly, and this say this because so many of us have the doubts and the questions, Poles have been remarkably generous and active in receiving these refugees. In Beit Polska, the tiny Jewish group that we're part of, the member of the Introduction to Judaism class, who comes from Jewish family, but is technically not Jewish and is in the process of becoming Jewish, is a retired Polish army colonel who, with his army buddies, have been going once a day to the border to pick up families and deliver them to Shudborov. It's the one remaining Jewish retreat center that houses about 150 people, and bringing ones and twos, and of course bringing people to other places. The entire Airbnb market in Poland has been revised and suspended all financial concerns to welcome refugees. Interesting that a Polish colonel is heading a little group. And that's in some ways the most interesting part of Poland, is that there is less in the way of an organized government effort and just citizens saying, bring me someone, we have a spare room. Our president, Marek Józefowski, who at some point we'll have you meet, received one of the Polish colonels, his name is Robert, I'll use only his first name, people who was being dropped off at an Airbnb, an 80-year-old woman, and the colonel says to Marek at about 10 o'clock at night, she can't stay here, there's too much noise. What should I do? And Marek says, well, of course, we have a spare room. And he brings her to his home about 11. And one of the first conversations that breaks out is, does she know if she's had any shots for COVID? At 11 o'clock, one of our physicians is receiving a call from our president saying, where do we get a COVID shot? Because we're pretty sure she's not had any COVID shots. And he says, well, I'll bring over a shot now. At 1 a.m., they're finally allowed to settle the house, and she's had her first COVID shot. These are small details, but they represent what is going on not only in Jewish civil society, but in Catholic civil society all over Poland. The last thing that I did before shutting down for Shabbat was to okay a $1,000 purchase of medicine and food, not for refugees in Poland, but for people just over the borderline. We've still got to figure out how to deliver the food and medicine. That we've got a pretty good idea. Because there are people still coming from the east. You know, if you've seen the map, Ukraine is kind of a long country, great distance between the east and the city of Lviv, or Lvov or Lemberg. Those are its three historical names. And there's a progressive community in Lviv, which we've done concerts with in Poland. And so they wrote us and said, can you send medicine? Can you send food? We're going to stay as long as we can because the shops here are empty and people are still coming from the east, and we'll try to provide them with whatever we can. And so we made a $1,000 purchase. We're doing a lot of ad hoc things now because that's what's called for. And we're doing some very careful things, like the 2 classrooms of kids who have autism from Ukraine, who are being provided with materials to start school this coming week. The food, the teachers, Ukrainian-speaking teachers, behavioral psychologists. So we're employing some of the refugees to take care of other refugees. It's wonderful to hear the work of the big organizations, Hias and the other big JDC who are raising millions of dollars. We're watching all of that happen as it breaks out. But I'm most proud of the fact that we, with which is about $14,000 so far, have been able to do a lot of good things to help people. We haven't built any buildings, and there's nothing permanent in what we've done, but it has been very much this idea of how we can reach out people to people. Most of the people we've helped are not Jewish. Most of the people are Ukrainian citizens. And for as long as we can, we will sustain these efforts. We have big plans. Some of you remember the movie we made about Bogdan Beliak in the city of Kielce, the pogrom that took place, and Beliak's dedication to helping us make that a part of the history. He is working with people, and we will be joining in several partnerships. Our plan is to open now 5 childcare centers, one in Warsaw, one in Kielce, one in Krakow, one in Gdansk, and probably one in Szczecin. And this is the kind of thing that is going to be largely supported by people working at the normal wages that we pay them, and helping kids deal with trauma. One of our members is a trauma specialist, and we're looking forward to using one of her tools to help parents understand kids who are pre-reading and dealing with the question of the traumas they've faced. So I feel very proud. I recognize that the history of all these places is complex. Regularly, we receive notices from pro-Putin people, and there are some in America, as you may know. And regularly, we receive notices from anti-Ukrainian and anti-Polish Jews who say, why are we bothering? Remember our history. And here I think the question of what it is we're supposed to remember and what it is we're supposed to blot out comes to the fore. Yes, there is a past, and one should not deny that past. Historically, it's important to understand that past. But now there is a different present. Yesterday, Haaretz, the newspaper that I read regularly in Hebrew and in English, carried a story of a village near the border of Poland that organized with a specific goal. They had 10 families that had made room in their village, and their request was that they wanted specifically Jewish refugees to come to their village, and that they wanted to show Jews that they were aware of the past and seeking a different future. The story was written by a normally pretty acerbic Israeli author, Ofer Aderet. When I read the story, I called him and I said, Ofer, what are you reporting here? And he says, I'm reporting what I did the research on. And he says, there are villages all over Poland that are looking to house Jewish refugees. I said, but there are not going to be enough Jewish refugees for them to house, because most of the Jewish refugees are wanting to go to the big cities. He says it doesn't matter. There's a consciousness that is different, and we'll need to convert some people at the border so that they can become a part of this effort. I am aware of the great task that we're facing. We have tremendous, tremendous challenges. And I have many more stories to tell you. And some of the battles that you have in offering, I'll just tell you 2 battles. I lost both of them, so I'm happy to tell you about them. A very nice woman calls the World Union for Progressive Judaism, and the president, Carol Sterling, refers this woman to Marek in Warsaw. Marek, this woman wants to bring 25 suitcases for Ukrainian women and children to have business clothes and the kids to have clothes. And will you meet her at the airport with a truck so that these can be delivered? Now, the notion of refugee help at this point is that you don't send blankets and clothes. You send money. There's plenty of blankets and clothes available in Poland and in Germany, and Amazon maintains two of the largest facilities in Europe, in Poznan, in Poland. She insisted because she says we need the symbolism of arriving. So today I'm checking on her. It's crazy because you can't get an answer from the Polish authorities about humanitarian aid coming through customs. And she says, I've got a problem. So what's the problem? She says, I just spoke to a few of my friends. She's in the shmata business, and we've got 50 cases of clothes. What should I do? I said, let somebody else bring them. So those are problems of people's generosity. And I'll stop with that story. There's another story of defeat. I had counseled this woman just to not send clothes because it's too cumbersome. She insisted, and I think she's right. So on the Shabbat of Zachor, we have this responsibility to remember what Amalek did to us and also to forget. Remembering and forgetting is a very deeply personal thing in our lives because we've all suffered traumas and so forth. But as a people, we have a responsibility also to remember and forget. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And we're going into a period of great struggle in the world. And the ability to keep our balance is primary. I will refer just to one thing, and that is that the next program of our Freighted Legacies is about a book written by Eliana Adler, in which she tells us about what happened to Jews who went east to wartime Russia, the Soviet Union, to escape the Nazis. So exactly the opposite of what's happening today as people go west. And she's been writing about the issue of refugees because of what she learned in this enormous book that won the prize as the most important book from Yad Vashem. And this week she came out with a essay about the situation. And she says, as Jews, we are obligated to live also in the present. And that's what I ask of all of us tonight, to remember, but to live in the present. Amen. Cantor, we're going to turn to the a prayer for people who are ill, and I'd like to invite people who are, I'm going to go to a gallery, if that's okay. Invite people if they would like to share the names of their relatives. Cantor will be reciting a blessing for those who are ailing. And I'll just start, and if you have a name, please share it with us. Sue and Joel. Terry Wynett.
Debbie Rogo.
Sherry Paul.
Rosie Black.
Rabbi and mom of Rabbi.
Michael Hyman, John Strain, Michael Goslow, and Andy's dear mom and sister.
Rabbi Shana is preparing for us our Purim spiel, and we're all practicing. Thank you. Sally?
My brother, John Etchito.
Thank you. Judith?
My cousin Penny Burke.
Andia and Judith?
My nephew, Sammy Rubin.
Alan?
Call from private caller.
Okay, whoever that is. Claudia?
Anita Forgash, and Donna Loken. Thank you.
Thank you. Judith Raphael?
Haim, you already called on me. Penny Burke, my cousin. Thank you.
Sorry. Randy Taylor? Okay, we'll move on. Lynn Beliak? Okay.
Wonder who's
Jonathan
with-
Mandel? Okay, I guess not. Anyone else who would like to say the name of a loved one? Polly?
Pat Sachs.
Okay, Polly. Cantor? Oh, Andrea, please.
Inga White.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see Karen's hand as well.
Karen?
Suzanne Joyce, Julian Smith, Annabelle, Jane and Izzy, Rachel Furman, Andy Hyman, who's recovering.
I want to mention my mother-in-law, Edith Balanoff, cousin Richard Atkins. And I think that concludes, except for the Cantor's names, please.
I will thank you to my sweet beloved mother-in-law there, but I will add my mom Ellen, my little sister Anna, Rabbi Steve Robbins.
Oh, Steve Robbins.
Yes. So Cantor, if you to share with us the prayer.
Rabbi? Yeah.
Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe berach imotenu bekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you. Just one addendum to my remarks. Who would have imagined that a Jewish president of Ukraine would be leading a country like the Ukraine? It's a profound and very moving thing. We accidentally fell victim to the things that happen on the internet, and we included what we were told was a duet between Mr. Zelensky and his wife, Mrs. Zelensky. We got hammered because it turned out it was just some actors that seemed to look like the Zelenskys. So there are lots of interesting things happening on the internet as well. We turn now to the Aleinu, and we rise for the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
There are people who were reciting Kaddish. I'd appreciate it if they would share names, please. There's certainly enough. Yes.
Oh, my
Andy?
mom,
Shana?
Deborah Wynant.
Say again, please.
Deborah Wynant, my mom.
Deborah, why not? Your mom, of course. Bob Beliak, my brother.
I will
Shana?
I'll add the name of Chuck Bell, the father of one of my oldest and dearest friends who just passed.
And
Is that the
my
document? Oh,
mother, Ann Evans.
Thank
My
you.
mo-
Thank
my
you, Joel. And Judith?
My aunt and my uncle, Buddy Gordon and Lily Gordon.
Thank you. Polly?
My mother is still Warco.
And your sister?
Oh, Diane
Yes.
Warco.
Thank you. We, of course, have very much in our minds the many people who have perished in this war, nameless to us, but members of families, nevertheless. And we know the struggle that their families will face. We rise as we put up the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba v'yamod divrach chirotei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'veichon v'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael.
Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam ulal mei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'grusha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen.
We are going to call on our president for a few announcements, and then on our cantor to sing us out. And if people would like to chat a little bit before wishing each other Shabbat Shalom, take it away, Madam President.
Okay. So I'm going to just mention things that I have already sent you information on, but it's good to hear them. So this Wednesday is Purim, 7:30 p.m., produced by Rabbi Shana / Mrs. Cantor. And we got to be part of it. And there you are. There's one of the main characters. Take a look. If you don't quite know who that is, just you'll find out.
Monster.
And so that's this Wednesday. The following Sunday, March 20th at 10 a.m. our time will be Freighted Legacies that the rabbis already mentioned with Dr. Eliana Adler. And then also just a heads up on for the following Sunday, March 27th at 10:30 a.m. Will be a discussion, I think with our group and yes, and their Tamid, I'm reading it, on Dara Horn's book, which is titled People Love Dead Jews, Notes from a Haunted Present. And very interesting, I think that should be arriving shortly after what the rabbi was just talking about. I've only read about 4 chapters, so I'm not going to say anything else about it, but obviously the title is something to think about and can draw you into the book. And that's it for what's coming up in March. Oh, except to say, so next Saturday also, which would be the 19th, will be Torah study at 10:30. So you'll be getting a notice about that this week, of course. And if you still have your emails, take a look not only at the large one that I sent, but also the corrections that I sent, because there was the wrong date for tonight. And next week will be Saturday the 19th, and we'll have Torah study. And also the correction gives you the Zoom number and code for Purim, which is not ours, but will be near Tamid's. So check out those 2 emails. If you have any questions, of course, write congregation Beth Ohr sc@gmail.com. Thanks.
I neglected to acknowledge Elizabeth Doyle, who was here, and she's disappeared. It's 3 hours later for her, so she's forgiven. Glad
And I
to
want
see
to, I want to
Yes.
say one more thing, which is if any of you are moved to donate to Beit Polska, you can do that on the website, Friends of Jewish Renewal in Poland, which is the organization, support organization of Beit Polska that our rabbi is the director of. So, if you heard some good, inspiring stuff tonight, please do that. Thanks.
Cantor, we want to have a song to lead us into the Shabbos mood. Do you have one for us?
I do, but first I will yield the floor to my beloved wife, who has a Purim announcement of her own. So.
Oh, please, Rabbi Shana.
Just tiny, Karen, please forgive me. Actually, we're starting at 6:30, not 7:30. So you have to, change your clocks. But somewhere along the way, it'll end up 6:30 with our Mariv service. But we do that with spiffy melodies. So come and name that tune with us. And the Megillah should begin right at about 7. And Rabbi Haim, you give me too much credit for the Purim spiel. This one is really, really a joint effort with your amazing cantor, who I have to wave to from San Francisco. But this was really Cantor Andy's idea, and we've built it out together. But so many of the jokes and silliness are his. So I can't take full credit at all. I hope to see you guys there.
Thank you.
So if the liturgists on this Zoom will forgive me for ending not with a Don Olam or something like that, I am going to rewind our mental prayer books back to the end of the Amidah and close out with an Oseh Shalom, but the same Oseh Shalom that was done so beautifully from Ukraine last Shabbat, what we refer to as the Israeli Oseh Shalom, but I think we should now start referring to it as the Ukrainian Oseh Shalom, figuring that the world needs about as many prayers for peace as we can possibly utter right now. So. Oseh shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru Shabbat shalom, my friends.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
And
Shabbat
goodbye to the
shalom.
folks in YouTube land.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.